Richard Rellis here with columnist Bob Robb, and everyone pretty much knows about the Dominion defamation suits that have caused some right-wing media outlets to backtrack on their discussions of its voting machines. But you bring up another defamation suit that hasn't gotten much attention.
Yes, as a result of the 2018 Republican primary, to have the chance to lose to Tom O'Halloran in the general election, Wendy Rogers, who's now a state senator, put out an ad and put a blog on a website that in essence accused her primary opponent, former state legislator Steve Smith, of being a slimy character, working for a modeling agency that specialized in young girls and advertised on a website linked to sex trafficking, obviously suggesting that the modeling agency was sexually exploiting young women. As it turns out, it's just a legitimate modeling agency, and the modeling agency sued for defamation. A trial court judge said, we think there's a case here, let's submit it to the jury. She moved for summary judgment and appealed the denial of that in her behalf, without even going to the jury, to the Court of Appeals, which on a split decision recently upheld it. I don't think it's the right decision, and one of the thoughts I surface in the column is that if we want more civility and honesty in our public discourse, well, maybe these lawsuits are a way to get some of it.
You bring up that the judges who sided with Wendy Rogers had an interesting reasoning as to why this defamation suit should not be allowed.
Yeah, I called it hilarious. I mean, when you separate all the legal mumbo jumbo, here's the argument. Everyone knows that politicians distort and lie. No one believes anything they have to say. Therefore, they can't actually defame anyone. That's not exactly, I think, the standard that we want. And as I point out in the column, it's not the standard that's in the Arizona Constitution.
Right. Good news for I guess politicians who wish to say mean things about each other. The standard is tough, but do you think that, I guess, does Dominion show us that political speech can be reined in if a company tries to assert itself?
Well, certainly the threat of lawsuits caused several media companies to backpedal full speed. Whether they can recover in the suits that they've actually filed against some of the principals that were doing the conspiracy mongering, I think is a more difficult legal question. There is a very high hurdle, in my judgment, probably excessively high. And their ability to prosecute the cases, I think, is not as clear as the fact that they were defamed by false characterizations of their voting machines.
Right. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Dominion and this Arizona case, which I imagine is being appealed up to the state Supreme Court. I'm sure you'll be following it as it goes through.
It has been appealed to the state Supreme Court. It hasn't decided yet whether to accept it. And there's a provision of the Arizona Constitution that says that you have a right to free speech and to write freely, being responsible for the abuse of that right. And one of the points of the column is that maybe in that equation, more emphasis should be placed on the responsibility side than currently occurs in our courts.
That takes all the fun out of it, but good point, Bob.